That's me. I'm Wayne's daughter.
Scared to be his Wayne daughter. You heard me, Key?
Yeah, she told me.
All
All
right.
right, y'all. Welcome to another session of Wind Down Wednesday with Keisha. And tonight what we're gonna do is we're gonna grab us a nice glass of wine and we're gonna sip. But at first I want to introduce y'all to my drink of the day. I'm sipping on some Bodega Norton. This is a 2022 select brand. Um and this wine is kind of like it's vinegary, well, peppery, as the sommeliers like to say. I'm the ghetto sommelier here. But it's kind of bitter. I like more of a red blend. This is a cabernet sauvignon. So this wine is kind of bitter. It's not my taste. But if you guys like the vinegary, peppery taste in a wine, then you can purchase this anywhere. I guess anywhere that sells wine. It usually runs between 17 to about 35 bucks. It just depends on where you purchase it from. So tonight's topic, I'm gonna jump on that. So we're going. This is about the men, and we were supposed to have a all male panel, but for some reason, I guess some people decided to drop off. They got misconstrued on what the conversation was about, but we're talking about actually the silent struggles of men, and and how it rings out loud within their relationships, and it actually impacts every aspect of their lives. So that's what I wanted to kind of shed light on today. But some kind of way it got into women versus men and men bashing and all this. So the purpose of like my shows and topics is not to bash men or bash anyone. It's for educational and informational purposes. So these are not men bashing sessions and they're not women bashing sessions. It's just to bring awareness to, we all kind of come together with similar issues, but how can we fix issues if we don't know they exist? So I have Mr. Wayne Barnes here, who is a licensed professional counselor. He's been in the game a long time, and I'm gonna let him lead us into this conversation.
Thank you, Miss Keisha. How y'all doing, folks? Who is it? Who's my brother? What's your name, brother G?
I'm Justin. How you doing, man?
All right. And my daughter is on. She's joining me. I'm sure she gonna find some enjoyment behind this topic. So check this out. So, like Keisha said, this that I kind of got the title a little bit construed as well because when I heard Keisha's intro, not tonight, but when she sent me some stuff, I was like, is she trying to see that men bringing all this baggage and women got to deal with all this stuff? And I was like, I wasn't really ready to defend all that because I was like, I was thinking on the backside, equally to that, women bring baggage to relationships too. So I didn't know
Mhm.
if I want to just say like it was just male bashing, like we got all the issues, but I got that straight. It is clear that we're not blaming nobody. It's about information and um, to somewhat entertainment, right? So check this out: the discussion on trauma. A lot of times, people take trauma as when they speak on trauma, they discuss it as the event or a single event or a series of events. So, for example, somebody is in a house fire. That's a traumatic event. That could be described as a traumatic event or a car wreck. All right. Even from childhood, when people describe being abused as children, whether it be physically, emotionally, or sexually abused, those are considered to be traumatic events. But we're not, as a therapist, I don't treat the event because there's nothing I can do about what happened in the past. I look at trauma as when I with a trauma background or trauma history, I'm looking at their response to the event. So it's not we're not saying I can't unwreck the car, I can't rebuild a house, but I definitely could deal with the person's response to the traumatic event. Now, I do notice this a lot. For as many clients that I see that have um that a lot of times people have gone through things and they haven't even trauma because they don't have that definition. They don't have that narrative. They may have experienced something, and then they come to see me. I say, "Oh, that you've been through some trauma," and they say, "Oh, really?" They never really described it because they just thought what they had been experiencing was just a regular part of life. So trauma is an emotional or psychological response to an event or a series of events. All right. It breaks a person's sense of security, resulting in negative effects on their mental, physical, and social well-being. So, in the context of relationships, and you know, trauma from women or from a female, we talk about mothers and women in general, and you can grow up to be an adult, and you find yourself in a relationship with a woman. You might be harboring some feelings. I heard this in the past that he hated his mama, and therefore every woman that follows that relationship with his first relationship is gonna be reflective of the relationship that he had with his mother, and so that manifests into negative things in relationships. And I can see where women could be like, he act like I'm his mama or whatever the response is, but whatever he didn't get as a child, he is seeking that in a relationship from the woman that he gets companioned with. If that make any sense to y'all, like where he lacked as a child, he didn't get it, and so now he's seeking that in a relationship, and he might be seeking, and women be like, "Look, boy, I'm not your mama. You should be grown already. You should already have your S together." And so what happens is when people experience trauma, which is psychologically and emotionally disturbing, they experience stuff like sadness, anger, helplessness, and even adverse behaviors, right? Some trauma involves, childhood upbringing, as I alluded to before, family trauma, abuse, neglect. Those are ways that trauma originates. And then while people are growing up, and once they become grown, they haven't really had the opportunity. They use, well, when I was growing up, you hear that people say that all the time. Well, when I was growing up, and my response to them is, well, what I understand when you was growing up, but now you grown, so where you at now? There's two different realities from growing up to being grown. So that's my background, my backdrop on the definition of trauma. But I will add this: society has taught men how to respond to trauma. Mr. Justin, you growing up, what was some things that men were not allowed to do?
Cry.
You know, what's that?
That's the very first. You asked me growing up what was one of the things men were allowed to do, or I guess
Not
you're implying like something we was taught by either, I don't know, our parents or society or friends that we weren't allowed to do, and the first thing that popped in my head was cry.
right. So there it is. Men as a foundation in general, not all men, because I have a little grandson, and me and my daughter we talk about it, and we have to let him be able to express his emotions. Now, society, Justin, growing up, I'm gonna just assume you grew up in New Orleans. If we was on the playground and a little boy, got bumped the wrong way and he started crying, the rest of us gonna let him have it. We gonna tell that boy something that's gonna
Mm.
hurt his feelings. You think his feelings was hurt before, but his feelings really gonna be hurt if the rest of us gang up on him. So then learn to protect our emotions, and we will, quote unquote suck it up or we hide it, and then so we harbor those feelings. Um, we say all kind of things, man up, and the only thing that really means is when you man up is you doing stuff unlike you expect us to do things unlike we expect women to do. So we have a misconstrued idea about what expressing emotions are. Now, I will say this is my soapbox. Uh, Crying is considered weakness. Aggression is considered to be strength. And when we, at the same time, we also have boys and men alike who are taught that if you cry, it's a sign of weakness. So we got to do some other things that we have to cover up. Truth of the matter is, to summarize that, I don't want to just keep running like this, but I'm gonna say this: men don't have enough experience, in my experience. Men in America, probably globally, don't have enough experience dealing with their own emotions in a healthy way, and we bring that unhealthy behavior and as Keisha would say, baggage to. I'm sure she'll agree with that. Men
Yes.
baggage to relationship. That's what I was getting, right? And and that I can see that viewpoint that would be considered baggage if we have unresolved ways of dealing with emotions. So that's my baseline for how men arrive at relationships. Now, if we turn this into a relationship session and not just what men bring to the table, but all the things that I just said about men apply to women. Not that women is, with the exception of women are expected to cry and
Hmm.
men are not allowed to cry. That's a critical point, right? So in relationships, we in particular, I'm a domestic violence counselor by profession. Uh, Check this out. When men experience when children it is when children, both male and female children, experience adult lives, fight, fuss, kick, throw things, and they also not breaking up. Man, you know what the tone that sets for the child, that that's what men and women do in relationships, because they don't see the people fuss and fight and then break up. They see the people fuss and fight and maintain those relationships in an unhealthy way. So with that said, I'm digress to anybody who just had anything to comment on based on what I said, whether we agree or disagree, but just a comment as to how the men's current trauma state. Who is that just joined us? I can't read your name. Black shirt with a yellow logo.
That's Brian.
What's up, Mr.
Brian.
B? What's
Hey,
going
what's
on,
up,
my?
young blood?
All right, bro. I'm glad. I just get laid out a little bit. I told Keisha I was gonna do this. As people signed in or checked in a little bit later, so like we somebody else on too. Who is that?
That's Melanie. And since we didn't get to introduce everybody, so as y'all speak, introduce yourselves, and because people need to know who you are, because you have an opinion. So all that matters on this podcast.
I'm
Okay.
I'm I'm gonna digress just a little
I'm
bit so that for the benefit of Melanie and Brian, just to hear some of the things that I said about trauma not being an event, more there are traumatic events, but it's actually what we treat in our center is people's responses to trauma. And and all the men on this panel have been told this, I know this for certain. I'm not even asking, I'm telling us that when we were crying as boys, there was a man or a woman who told us all, stop crying, you sound like a little girl, punk, or sissy. Now, if you were raised in New Orleans and you didn't have that experience, more power to you. You blessed to not have that experience. But if you're being told by your mother, your father, your uncles, your cousins, boy, you sound like a little bee, you sound like a girl, a punk, or a sissy, you don't need to hear that, and you're gonna do everything in your power not to play that out. So we don't have, as men in society, we are taught not to be overly expressive. Now, I'm not trying to raise a community of crybabies, because sometimes we have to cry. You know what I mean? In my estimation, we have tears and emotions, and they work together. we have tear ducts rather, and emotions. They work together. And sometimes they clash, and we have to drop one. I had a man tell me he haven't cried in years, but he did let one drop. I said, bro, that's crying. You know what I mean? He was like, he was thinking, because he didn't have a long, drawn out emotional response, but the fact that he teared up was the equivalent to a cry. But he fought that notion because he have a lifetime of enduring that men don't cry, boys don't cry, and the only real access, the only really emotion that men really have the most access to is anger. So a lot of times we be in relationships and we experience compromising or at least adversity in a relationship. We don't know, I'm not even suggesting that we cry in a situation where with our significant other, but I'm also saying we know how to go to anger. That's our go-to. One thing for sure, if a man have an emotion, if I ask Mr. Brian, so what's wrong, Brian? Why you crying? Man, I'm not even why you crying. What's wrong with you? And Brian says, man, I'm pissed off. Hey, look, I'm all for that. All right, B, I'm glad you pissed off. You got to let it off some kind of way. If Justin was to say, man, I'm mad. Man, I'm going to support him 100%. But if Brian or Justin had told me that they was disappointed or they was sad or they was, somehow, their feelings was hurt, and I don't know how supportive I will be of that. And I'm just talking about the community of men that's around us. Man, I'm disappointed. And especially on this one. Correct me if I'm wrong, fellas. Brian and Justin, if
Yeah,
a guy,
I'm gonna say something.
go ahead, go ahead.
I know it got a little lag, so that's why I always pause after I say something to make sure. But while you on the subject, um, I ain't like I ain't trying to get like too personal, but I don't mind. I ain't have a relationship with my biological mother growing up, right? I think me and her relationship ended when I was like just a baby, not even 1 year old. So I spent the rest of my life with my dad and my stepmother. But I'm saying that because it relates to this trauma type thing that you talk about and how it affects us. In this case, with the topic today with relationships. So I know personally that's affected my relationships with women, but not in a way you would think. For me, since I was 18 years old, I've always dated women almost twice my age. I'm 33 now. Still, like 10, you gotta be 10 years older than me if you want to talk to me. I can't talk to girls my age. I can't talk to women. I can't talk to women my age. I can't talk to girls younger than me. It for some reason. So when I think about that, it's like, oh, is that just my preference? But now I think it's that subconscious, that nurturing wasn't there with me growing up. So I seek that in the woman that I look at, and I like that. I like how, like, oh, this woman's older than me. If I come to her with this, she go nurture me, or she go be like, oh, baby, that's okay. Like when you mentioned the crying, I've cried in front of two different women in my life, but both of those women I felt like I could cry in front of, and they didn't look at me like I was soft or any type of way. They nurtured me. They said, hey, no, it's gonna be all right, yada yada yada. So I do think for men, in terms of like the crying stuff, you just gotta find the right person who go accept that from you and go, I don't want to say cater to that, but not go make you feel some type of way for showing your emotions like that. And honestly, when I cried, it wasn't even nothing crazy. The Saints lost or something, but I was really crying. Like I was, like it wasn't that great, but I was really crying. Like it was something stupid, but like they would. I had that nurturing feel, and I also write books, and when people giving me feedback and they looking at the plots in the stories, for some reason, like the mom always abandoning their child or this and that, and they say, oh, you think this got something to do with your mom? And I always said, no, that's not why I wrote it, and I wasn't thinking about that when I wrote it. But when I'm thinking about what you saying, and like that trauma that you speak of, maybe it's subconscious. Maybe
Right.
I'm writing about that stuff, not
You
knowing that is the reason for it. So yeah, I
yeah, you
definitely relate to. Go ahead.
just on to something. Because subconscious, right? And so look, watch this. There's a theory called iceberg above the water, and the ice is much larger than the iceberg that sits above the water. So the stuff that's beneath the surface is really what produces the iceberg tip at the top, right? So when you think about it, everything you say, everything you do, everything you commit to is a result of your subconscious. Now, the subconscious is recording every little piece of your life. So, of course, it only feels natural that if you write a story about, and the story seems to revolve around abandonment, consciously, you didn't say, yeah, I'm going to write this book because I felt abandoned when I was a kid. No, but the subconscious is definitely playing a role in all your decisions. Now, you are writing books, but the subconscious play a role in relationships. You know what I mean? So
Mm-hmm.
what's really required is that men develop a sense of self-awareness and take a look at examine, both men and women alike as far as that goes. Why do I respond the way I respond? Why am I the way I am? And it don't have to be a negative thing. It's just you understanding your mental state of being. So I
Mm-hmm.
just want to interject. Like you were saying something real powerful about the subconscious. That plays a significant role in how we respond to people around us.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead, host.
No, but what I was gonna say is not to cut you off, Justin. I'm gonna let you go, but it just shows up because one of my questions was gonna be, like, what does that look like? How do y'all carry that? And you gave a perfect example of how one can carry trauma with them. So
Mm-hmm.
with that, so and we very seldom talk about what men going through. And I like this conversation because people need to know, we are similar in ways and we make choices because of our life, our foundation. So we make choices. So as I was trying to say in the text message, so when you wasn't privy to these disrespectful ass text messages that was going on, talking about a woman ain't shit because she got ain't shit pussy and all this kind of stuff. So all of that was talked about because we started talking about different trauma. So, and then one thing I hate is from as a woman, when I see a man, you can tell a damaged man because they become defensive whenever you start talking about trauma or that how they react to things in a relationship. Only a defensive man is that man that you're talking about. So everything that I read to them or typed in a message today actually came from articles that are general articles about men who are suffering with trauma and what they bring to a relationship. And I was telling somebody, I don't know who that was I was talking to, women are now starting to say that these men must have been sexually molested or because social media is so widestream now and you getting this information. So the myth is if a man has multiple relationships with women, he got to be undercover gay or he been molested by a woman that's a man, or he been molested as a child, so now he's trying to prove his manhood. So the women have figured out that men suffer from trauma, right? But at this point, we're trying to figure out how can we help our men to get to the next. How do we get them to say, "Hey, this happened to me. These are my triggers, and let's talk about this."
Let me just
Can
say,
I say something?
sure, sure.
I think as a people, as a society, we have to start encouraging healthy emotional expression. Going back to speaking on, and I know I've said this before in other episodes, we teach boys from as a baby not to cry. And that's a natural emotional expression because people cry when they're happy, when they're sad, when they feel joy. That's a natural emotion. So I think with creating environments with men and women to be able to understand that crying is not a weakness at all, period, at all. So there's no such thing as a crybaby or anything of that nature. As a human being, as a spiritual person, you're going to cry. You're going to express emotion in different ways. And speaking on the fact of creating healthy environments, the things because a lot of men feel like they can't talk to us about anything emotional or how they feel or the trauma, like just holding it in. And
Mhm.
like I heard someone say about the fact of that expression, the only thing that we teach them is to be able to express anger, and
Right.
that is so unhealthy. It's so unnatural. So even with women sitting back and telling boys that they can't cry, it's like you're creating the problem that other girls are going to have to deal with, other women are going to have to deal with, that you may have to deal with, suppressing that natural emotion. So I think that's a key factor in helping our men be able to find safe spaces and understand it doesn't show weakness. It
Right.
shows, I feel it shows strength and emotional wellness and a maturity.
Miss Melanie, I will agree with you 100% with all of your comments because you kind of like summarized what I was already stating, right? Um, the thing that resonated with me when we talk about safe places. So in the black community, everybody on this, I'm gonna assume everybody identifies as a black person. I know in our community we have a stigma around therapy. A lot of people think if you're in therapy, what's the C word? Everybody say at the same time. What's the C word that if they find out somebody's in therapy, what we say about them?
They're
Crazy.
crazy.
They crazy. So we got to get past that part right there. You know what I'm saying? As a community, as a society, that by definition, therapy means healing. If you think about it, if you go to a physical therapist, you're trying to heal physically. If you get a cold, you take Theraflu. It's all in the words. So we got to dispel the part about if you're in therapy that you're crazy and that also that but it actually technically means healing. Miss Keisha, let me just
Mhm.
to you and your female counterparts who have decided that if a man has sleep with multiple women, that he been molested as a child, and that's the reason why he have multiple partners. Yes, that you start asking those people who you speaking with, where's their receipts? Is that just coming up with in their head and doing a broad stroke against all men? Cause he like this, cause girl, I tell you, he just like the other one I was dealing with, and y'all make a conclusion. So now y'all diagnosing people, and y'all don't have the background information. That's like my pet peeve with therapy. As a therapist,
That's what that
you
is.
as I understand that everybody on this video is gonna say that they know somebody with OCD, they know somebody who bipolar. Now, for some of the people who will say that it's because they actually know somebody who's diagnosed. But I guarantee you, everybody on this call has diagnosed somebody and not being qualified to do so.
Well,
So
I'm
Well, I'm
qualified.
diagnosed. It's funny you say that. I'm diagnosed with both. I got OCD and bipolar. Honestly, I'm gonna keep it 100 with y'all.
all right, so I mean, if that's verified, and I don't know where we've gone this way, but I'm a teacher and an educator, so I'm gonna say this: in order for somebody to be bona fide diagnosed, they have to involve four elements. First of all, they have to meet the criteria for the DSM. Secondly, it has to be done by a qualified person. Thirdly, it has to affect a major part of their life that home, school, work, or social. And lastly, it has to be a history. If all four of those criteria don't match up, nobody deserves the uh the diagnosis or whatever it is. Even if they have check this out. In a DSM, they'll say, depending on what diagnosis you're talking about, 4 out of 5 or 2 out of 3. or 6 out of 9. If they don't meet all the criteria, they don't get the diagnosis. So it's kind of strict before we just start. What if the criteria says you got to have 5 out of 9 and you got 4 out of 9 or 3 out of 9? It looked like you got it, but you don't have all the symptoms, or you don't have enough symptoms to manifest a diagnosis. So we got to be careful with diagnosing people from
Well,
a.
you can't. Well, Wayne, you can't diagnose anybody as a homosexual, right? A long time ago, it was in the DSM-5 that trans, those behaviors. But since we've
Health.
come
What's the problem?
very forward, that's not a diagnosis anymore.
I'm talking about people being sexually.
I can't hear you.
When you start saying people being molested,
Oh, well,
and
I guess that's their way of saying that a man is sassy, because we call men sassy these days, and that come with a whole lot of talk. But me, I don't diagnose anybody. I mean, y'all said it earlier. When a man, I always say, and this is something the old folks used to say a long time ago. You look at how a man and his mother get along, and that is how he's going to treat his wife or his woman. If that man has a good, healthy relationship with his mother, he is going to have a healthy relationship with his partner.
not necessarily. Let me push back
I
on that.
disagree on that one.
Back on this for a little bit, right?
Yeah,
So
some dudes love their mom and be beating the shit out of their girl at home.
Or the
look,
ones that's mama's boys and they love on their mama more than they love on their girl.
I'm gonna push back a little bit because some people experience a negative relationship with their mother and they vow never to treat women in the same manner that they did with their mother. So not just because if they have a positive relationship with their mother, that's gonna translate to a positive relationship with the next female. Or if they have a negative relationship with their mother, that's gonna be they're gonna have negative relationships with women. It don't work like that
Well, I
because
think if you were raised by a narcissist, you're going to have those narcissistic
that,
tendencies. And narcissists never let go of their prey. So
that
that goes for mother or whatever. Everybody's a victim.
so look, as a therapist, I'm gonna tell you like this: they got a lot of diagnoses that are overly used. You got 5-year-olds who go to the psychiatrist and you say, Doc, this kid can't stand still, he can't pay attention, and instantly the kid have ADHD. You have somebody who is aggressive or confident, and instantly he's narcissist. It don't happen like that. They might have a few other symptoms, but I just gave you the qualifying factors.
Oh, you did. I'm talking about a bona fide narcissistic person, not somebody who just displays symptoms. The parent is giving the child a diagnosis, not the doctor. So if the
And the
parent
parent,
is taking the child in and saying, because the parent can read what all the symptoms are and tell the doctor that. So it's actually the parent that's diagnosing the child, not the doctor.
no, but see, the parent is only the information giver. The In order for it to be for real, I mean, if it go in that order, a child goes to a psychiatrist with the parent. The psychiatrist said, "Mom, what's going on with the kid?" The mom describes. The psychiatrist concludes. In that way, I can see that working. But when I know families who the mama be saying, no, I know people. I've met people who said, "Yeah, I'm bipolar." I said, "Where you get that from?" Boy, my mom been telling me that since I was little that I was bipolar. I said, "Where your mama degree?" Just because your mama said that don't make it right. So I understand there's both sides of the equation. I'm only warning the panel against using words, diagnosable words, when we don't know half the time what the hell we talking about. Now, in those instances where it's official, I get that. But if it's something that's casual, just because they have one or two symptoms, we got to be careful with applying that across the board, right?
Okay, well, I could agree with that. But getting back to the topic on men and trauma, you define, y'all define what a safe space is and things like that. So the thing is, where do y'all go to talk about things? And because we talked about men are taught to react in anger. So I mean, where does all this misplaced junk go when you don't get the help that you need or you don't have a safe space? How is that acted out?
You
If
know,
y'all
I'm gonna find you.
I,
Go ahead.
go ahead, Brian.
well, yeah, and the thing is that I think it comes with some maturity, because as someone stated before, I was raised in the whole boys don't cry, suck it up, and so I basically went into adulthood with the same way, even with grown men. Like if at one time if a grown man told me something about his problems, or he was sad or he was crying, I'm like, man up. And what I had to learn, I was listening to one of my other partners talking. He was talking about how his friends would come to him and he had the same situation. And I thought about it. I said, man, know what, if a grown man can come to me and tell me his problems or cry or be sad, then that's something deep, because I understand our ego our egos don't let us do that kind of stuff. So I had to reverse my psychology and it came with getting older and came with maturity, and say, you know what? If a grown man's coming to me with his issues and his problems or his cries, bruh, it's something serious. You need to listen. So I started picking that up and talking to other men. So when I do my men's group and I do my different things, I tell men, like, bruh, put that aside. Like, if somebody come to you, and I think that's how we actually set that. You got to talk to other men and tell them, man, look, if a grown man come to you, you need to listen, because our pride. And I think other men, and I saw the reaction from other men, because it's a lot of times we actually bring that into adulthood. And I think that's how we get rid of that, is that we just got to keep sharing that. It's okay. It's okay to talk. It's a no judge zone. I used to always tell cats that in the group, man, ain't nobody judging you. It's four other people in here that been through the same thing. And I think that's how we get rid of that, because we've been programmed for so long, and now even and we talking about women in the safe space, and it's hard to have a safe space now as a man, because when we talking about women, and somebody was talking about the women and the children, but even with men, because as a man, and I'm not an emotional person at all, but I hear women talk about this all the time, and that's a gift and a curse of mine. But I hear women say that all the time. Well, these men today, you can't deal with these because these men so emotional. Like, they're more emotional than the women. So now, if that is consistently preached, if it's consistently talked about on podcasts, in the communities, the women communities, and all these things, now a man gotta basically never show his emotions, because if he's gonna basically, if he can't show his emotions to his woman or women, then he's done.
Mr.
So I
Brian.
think women have to basically now know and understand that you got to create a safe place for a man. Yes,
Right.
sir.
Mr. Brian, let me say this. You kind of like to reinforce something that's an issue with men. You said, I'm an emotional person. I'm gonna suggest this to, and this is, I don't know you, so I can easily say this. You ever been on St.
Yeah.
All right. Your emotions was all over the place. You are, look, put it like this. When you made a statement that I'm not an emotional person, then you're not human at that point. You got me? And the value of emotions are, you get happy, you get sad, you get this, you get whatever the emotion you can name, you experience the full range of emotions. The only problem is you excluded, like when women say he all emotional, we all emotional, but it's like an expectation that a man not be able to show certain emotions. So if you, I'm gonna help you out, if you say, man, I'll say this, I'm one of the most emotional people you know, because I recognize emotions, and that's, I'm still over my mom died, right? And ever since my mama died, I've been cool. I never, never cried, because I kind of like, I was able to prepare myself for a death. But since that time, everybody been calling me and say, man, how you doing? I said, man, like, I'm good. I'm managing. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm good. And then what people been telling me? But man, it's your mama. Man, it's different when it's your mama. I said, look, man, I know it's my mama, but just the way people have expectations for you to have emotion is different, right? So if I'm gonna be judged by my female, con- by the way, I gotta include this too. I've been married for 30 years. My daughter's on the line with us right now. If I partner with somebody, I don't need somebody judging me based on my emotional state without them having to look at my totality of my existence. You know what I'm saying? We get together, we want to get partnered with people, and then we find out all of a sudden, oh, he had a bad relationship with his mama. I don't know if that's a questionnaire that you got to fill out before you meet people, but only reason I kind of like intervene, Mr. B, is because I want you to, but to say you are emotional. You know what I mean? You are
Well, but what I want to say about that, yeah, we all that's a human trait. So when you say when I say emotional, that don't mean I'm exempt from emotions. But when I said I'm not emotional, that means what I'm talking about is I don't basically get upset. I don't get down. I don't get too excited about every little thing. And I think that's when I mean emotional, like some people, everything has a certain reaction to it where it may be they exemplify that. I'm
right.
probably not that person, because again, I take everything with a grain of salt. Everything is a lesson. So when people, and I've been told that all my life, like you just so unemotional. And I say, well, no, it's just the fact that I understand life.
Right.
And so it's not that I'm exempt from emotion. When I say that, I think when we talk about what society considers emotional, like over every little thing, every movie you crying, somebody fuss at you, you crying. Like you said, the
Mhm.
Saints win or lose. My whole thing was with the Saints. Saints ain't never cut me a check. So the Saints ain't never cut me a check, and I'm here in Atlanta. So I got to go back and forth all day with these Atlanta folks with the Saints. But the thing was, it never really Atlanta people come at me. I'm like, okay, I played a game, but it wasn't tripping on it because again, they ain't never cut me no check. So that's what I was saying. So I ain't exempt from it.
I should clarify. I should clarify. It wasn't that the Saints lost; it's that they lost, and I lost a lot of money on
Okay,
that game.
CJ, I'm glad you cleared that up. I was about to say.
But you shouldn't have
That's
to
why I was
defend
crying.
that. You shouldn't have to defend the fact that you were crying or give an explanation
What?
why. Obviously, you were sad they lost.
Yeah.
Obviously, you were sad they lost. So either way, it didn't matter if it was money on it or whatever. You expressed that emotion of sadness. You shouldn't have
Mhm.
to explain or add extra because another man said, "Well, I'm not that emotional, so I wouldn't do that." Well, then that's you. You understand?
Mhm.
You guys shouldn't have to defend the fact of being emotional or expressing in a certain ways, as long as they're positive and healthy ways. It shouldn't
Exactly.
matter.
Hey, so look, I'm gonna tell you, there's some qualifying reasons why I've been allowed to cry. I've been doing this for at least 20 years, and so I got a lot of conversation around this. When men win and lose national championships, they cry on TV. We don't tell them nothing. We don't. We got excuses for that. We say, "Man, that man left his heart on the field." If one of your people that you know significantly, a family member die, kind of expect men to cry at that. If you get hurt, I'm talking about to be almost severely decapitated before we allow men to start crying, because you can't cry behind a paper cut. Outside of that, we don't have too many avenues to be able to, say for example, if my wife didn't give me some Valentine's Day roses, or even before she was wife, when we was dating, and she didn't give me no Valentine's Day present, I wasn't gonna be like, "Oh, she don't love me. Oh, I'm so hurt. I'm so distraught." I'm not. I would. I mean, I'm not built like that, right? But I'm saying if I were to say, "Man, she don't love me like I think she loves me," emotional. That's just you in a relationship that you didn't think it was all. That you thought it was more than it is, and it didn't amount to that. My only point is that I think something Miss Brandy might have said, Miss Melanie, I'm sorry. Miss Melanie said that we need to have the safe space, and it starts with being at home. I'm glad my daughter on the phone because I got a little grandson, and we have to allow men to be able to express themselves in a healthy way. And by the way, I think she's doing an excellent job with him, with being able to allow him to be like who he is in the space, but also being able to protect his manhood, because when he's in taekwondo and he didn't got his behind thrown around a little bit, and he absolutely he wanted to cry because he's like, man, basically my dude was getting beat up by some superior athletes. But
Mhm.
but the thing is, that's something that he needs to go through, and he had a healthy environment, a supportive environment that didn't say, "Boy, get your ass up," like dismissive of his emotional state.
And that's kind of what I want to bring to the conversation. We've talked about like men expressing their emotions and crying or it being anger. And you asked the question, how can we help our men or what can we do about this? I feel like there's a middle ground in your healthy expression of your emotion, right? You don't necessarily have to cry or get angry, but I do teach my son, like he was talking, to channel that emotion into something positive. Like if you're feeling whatever way, it's not on anybody else on this planet to create a safe space for you to cry when it's not an appropriate time or place or reason to be crying. What can you do internally? And I think that's what a lot of grown men are struggling with is how do you internally figure out how to handle those emotions without it resorting to anger or tears? And that's my 2 cents. That's the answer I'm looking for today is what's the middle ground here? Because it can't just be anger or tears, you know?
Yeah. But I don't even
No,
think most
you're
of our
right.
men
Because
even
like I
recognize
mentioned
that
earlier,
I don't even think half our men recognize that they have an issue in order to
Yeah.
be able to confront those issues. They're in total denial that, hey, this is me, this is what's going on with me, and I need to figure out how to fix that. So I don't even
Right.
think
So
they
step one
recognize
is the accountability and the knowledge that they're if they don't know that there's better, then how they supposed to, do anything with that information? How are they supposed to change? So one is acknowledging, but two, after you acknowledge, you have to make the conscious
but
choice
like
as a man and I'm a woman, conscious choice to make changes or seek other things that can help you emotionally. And a lot of men just not at that level these days, not in my age bracket in the 30s at least.
but like Brian said, like Brian said, that comes with maturity. And I think just because, like I said, I'm 33, I'm just now getting out of my 20s, but they got men. I think some people equate age with maturity. They got 60-year-old
Mhm.
dudes out there that ain't mature. Maturity come with life experience, wisdom, learning lessons. And I feel like once when we talk about the men who don't realize they have trauma or problems, like I said, it had to take me to start writing. Like writing is my outlet to deal with my
There
trauma.
you
I
go.
played football growing up. That was another outlet for me to learn how to control my emotions. But like I said, I'm 33 now. My football days behind me. I write books now. I feel like that's a way for me to cope with my trauma. But it took me writing books for somebody to come on and say, "Hey, do you think you write about this because of that?" And I said, "Nah, ain't no way." But then really, I'm like, is that the reason? I can't say sure, but I'm not gonna tune that out either. And that's where maturity comes in. Like, you know what? And even if I don't agree with it, that could be a possible reason, and that helps with the trauma. You know what I'm saying? So Brian said, it really, I think it has a lot to do with maturity. Like you have to much, and your age don't say, "Oh, you mature now because you 50 years old." It's no, it got people all kind of ages still fighting demons and dealing. And just because you fighting demons don't mean you're mature. It's how you deal with those demons. It's how you fighting them off. Because I'm glad one thing y'all said that I really think was very important for the people listening to hear is the keyword healthy ways to cope, not just ways, because some people drink to deal with their trauma. Some people do drugs and then it go away temporarily, but then you're not really getting rid of it. So I just feel like as far as like relationships, you as a man, You have to be very selective, picky with who you choose as your woman, because if you looking for the opposite gender to help you cope or give you an outlet to express your emotions and your feelings, you can't. And I sorry, it ain't go. I don't think it's gonna be at the club. You ain't gonna find that type of woman at the club. You ain't gonna find that type of woman at some of these places that I feel like, men are looking for
Don't
their women at.
discriminate
I'm
against
not saying
women
there's a
that go to the
specific place
club.
to go, but,
Don't
but
discriminate against women who go to the club. Because
Yeah,
there's good women who
well,
like to go enjoy themselves at the
wait, wait,
club
wait,
as
wait, wait,
well.
wait, wait. Look. Hey, look. This all I'm saying is, everybody gotta be selective. Okay, and some people may find. I'm pretty sure people have found their current wife at the club. I understand that, but maybe I'm speaking from my own person. I don't club. That's number one. But just be selective, and there's certain qualities and boxes you need to check off other than how the woman looks or they body type. And I've learned that I can't just be like, oh, she fine, so that's gonna be the one. Hey, let me do my research. I always ask about the exes, not because I'm jealous, but because I need to know, hey, why this relationship? Oh, with your baby daddy, why that ain't work out? So I could get more intel. Because if she said, "Oh, this N word was two, this, and that," I'm like, "Oh, well, that ain't that's an early sign, But that's
so
my little
just
take.
let me ask you this. So all that you described as somebody that's in the early 30s and you meet these women with all this baggage and you have your own stuff too. So how do you usually deal with that? Like how do you carry that? Because I know most times, we're in relationships with people when we carrying our own baggage, we don't even recognize how we hurt other people, how we may be self-damaging to a relationship, and it's not really the other person what they're bringing is what you bringing.
Hey, Keisha, I know you was asking.
So you're asking me,
I know you was asking Justin a question about how he deals with it, and it made me think about this. And just by the sheer numbers, right? According to statistics, there's somewhere about 8 billion people on the face of the earth, right? And the expectation that you're gonna get two people out of 8 billion that's gonna get together and they're gonna perfectly mesh up. I against you meeting somebody randomly or within your same race, within your culture, within your same. The odds is against you. If you ain't in New Orleans and you look for your soulmate and you gonna find your soulmate in New Orleans, well, New Orleans got some cultural stuff. It's a hard find. And I'm not saying they don't have no quality people in New Orleans, but if you don't have a global perspective, you may never find your actual mate. But what it takes is when you do get partnered with somebody, you have to look for healthy traits. Of course, like Justin said, she fine, she cute, and y'all make good love. All is a part of it. But outside of that, what kind of quality of person is she? Is she gonna be like, boy, you act like a little such and such? Woman, you can't talk to me like that. Even though you cute and you're fine and you taking some pleasures, I mean some I don't know, some leeways with talking to me like that, but those are red flags. And I think Miss Melanie said about healthy relationships. You know what I'm saying? We have to establish what a healthy relationship look like for us. And until the two people become compatible and realize, I've done my share of marriage and family therapy, either premarital and postmarital therapy. There's a lot of questions. One of the main things is if you, both parties need to understand that I cannot change the other one. If you partner with somebody and your mission is to change the other one's behavior, you're gonna have a lifetime worth of drama, if you will, because you don't change people. People change because they want to change, And when two people mutually agree to change, well, at least mutually agree to deal with the other person's idiosyncrasies, that's how that stuff works. But up until that point, if you spend the rest of your career in a relationship trying to change the other person, that's gonna be a miserable and unhealthy relationship, or at least unbalanced. So that's how we get to the point where we start pointing fingers at him. Yeah, he just a mama's boy, whatever. Or he might be a mama's boy, but you like that mama's boy. You got to be able to deal with him in the context that he shows up. You know what I mean? So I just wanted to just try, like,
Well,
without pointing fingers at men and women, is just like we got to accept people for who they are, and that's how we establish healthy relationships. I I have one other point. It's kind of like it has something to do with what we're talking about. But when we talk about relationships, the bottom line is this: are you gonna stick with them? Or are you stuck with them? That's a powerful question. Are you gonna stick with them? Or are you stuck with them? And you should never feel like you're stuck with somebody. And if you feel like you with somebody that you stuck with, you're gonna have a miserable time the rest of the duration of that relationship because you quote unquote stuck.
Hmm.
So that's my 2 cents.
So
so
Dr. Bird jumped
so
on. So you have anything to
yeah.
add to that,
So
Dr.
I
Bird?
was just listening to I was just listening to the gentleman that just spoke in terms of behaviors. Now behaviors are behaviors because we learn those behaviors, right? Now I
Right.
agree that we can change behaviors. We can't change personalities. People are born with their personality traits and they are who they are, but the behaviors definitely can be changed
True.
because we learn those behaviors. And behaviors are only reinforced by rewards or they're distinguished by not rewarding the behavior.
Uh, Dr. Bird, I'll say
So
this.
is what is how we allow people to treat us is how they will treat us.
I want to add this about personality too. Personality is not always rigid. Like you may have be born with a personality trait and you learn over time. 'Cause I witness people personalities change in midlife, so it's not exactly rigid as a behavior. But I'm just putting out there that personalities can are not rigid. They don't remain the same. That they can be with at times,
I
especially
think your personality may I think your personality may waver based on the conditions, but your personality is who you are, and your behaviors are how you behave.
And we can take on other people' personalities as well, depending on, well, we like to call it code switching now. So we kind of,
Well, that's not taking on their personality. That's taking on the behavior if you're code switching.
well, so I was gonna say for me, I was thinking personality was more, as like you say, depending on the setting that we're in, we take it, we tend to kind of conform to that setting and we become a part of that environment, like assimilating into whatever the other person had. But I get what you're saying about behaviors. We're acting
But
off
that's an
another's
adaptation,
behavior.
right? That's
Hmm.
more are you adapting to the environment, but your personality will still come bubbling out eventually.
Oh yeah.
Once you adapt to that personality, you get comfortable with it, is that those things start to creep out the closet, and that's who you are.
So the representative is at the country club. And then once we step out of the country club, then I get to meet the real you at some point, basically.
that's pretty much what happens. So, and
Hmm.
thing like to kind of like summarize where we've been going tonight. We started talking about trauma and women evaluating men based on their behaviors and the characteristics, and concluding that the men bring so much baggage to the conversation that why he and women. Keisha, I ain't gonna lie, I almost didn't. I was struggling with getting on here because I said I'm not about to support Keisha talking about men table with all this baggage, and I said women got just as much baggage as men. So I was
But why do you feel the need? Because she said that men have so much baggage, you need to throw back what women have. If you say in a statement anything about negative behaviors or anything about women, I'm not going to say, well, men do it too, because guess what? I know some women are unhealthy. I
Exactly.
know some women need to heal. And I am secure in who I am and know I resonate healthy behaviors. I don't feel the need to throw something back about a man
Right.
because you say something about a woman.
So Ms. Melnick, in all due respect to what you just said, I actually was speaking for some people that, all right, because I put it back that men have baggage and women got baggage too. That wasn't my perspective. The reason why I say that women bring baggage too, because I was making sure that I wasn't joining a male bashing session, and I, I was gonna help
But
Keisha.
see, but see, to me, I don't think baggage is an unhealthy thing. I think you every all have baggage, right? It's how
And
we
that,
unload our baggage, right? And
that was my
so if I come into a relationship and I'm telling you, here's my grocery bag, and I'm willing to put all my groceries on the table, then you have the choice to say, well, I don't want those groceries. This is not going to work for me, and I'm okay with that. But I
absolutely
think what happens is that when we try to keep our baggage bagged, then we have a problem.
Yeah, that's where the problem definitely comes in at. And when men who and we all, and I'm just not just saying this is a man's problem, because people, I'm just gonna say when people go into relationships and they carrying all these bags, like Erica Badu said, bag lady, that bag gets very heavy, and we dump that on somebody else. It's like you don't even recognize, like, you're dragging that person down. That's like if
Turn
you're
the
in the sea
volume over
sinking,
here.
you're in the sea sinking, and you steady holding on to that bag, and a person is trying to rescue you, and they grab you, they're gonna sink right down with you.
I
And
guess
you're go
I
ahead.
guess what you're saying is when you say baggage, you mean like negative trauma issues versus him saying like just different things in your life and put it on the table and we'll discuss and see if that's something I want to deal with. You're saying baggage, as we all look at, is a negative thing where you're bringing these things that you dealt with from previous relationships or childhood unhealed issues, and you don't allow yourself to have healthy relationships because you're still dealing with those things.
right. I remember when my daughter was growing up, I was sensitive to her upbringing. She might not agree exactly. And she was like, "Dad, you was the most insensitive dude I knew." But because we've already had a conversation. But I always had the contention that women like raised with the notion that when you get some children and when you get married, that you will be whole and complete. And I kind of held on to I wanted my daughter to be whole and complete before she had children and got
Absolutely.
right.
Absolutely.
And,
That's the male supremacist nature of trying to build women to make them feel the only way they're complete is once they have a man and a chat, that concept of marriage versus being whole as a human being, period, and joining with someone. So, yeah, that's right. Being whole before you join. Being married or having a man is not the end all be all, but women are taught that from childhood.
yeah,
Like, once you get married, then okay,
because
that's being successful. Because I have women friends still who feel some type of way because of they're in an older age and they haven't been married yet. And I'm like, girl, please, fuck that. Even though I am married, but that ain't been my end all be all. I was one of the ones who said I'm never getting goddamn married. Like, didn't care nothing about it, you know.
I've
But it
been,
happens.
I've been in situations where I grew up in a domestic violence and sexual assault prevention, and I've been my entire career I've been around, and I've heard other women speak on other women. She ain't married, she must be a lesbian. What the
Mhm.
hell?
Yeah,
Like,
it's a negative. That's that
Mhm.
misogynistic brainwashing put on women to feel like if you don't have a man or if you're not married, there's something wrong with you. And statistically, men benefit more from being married than women do, right? Because guess what? One of the key factors is you're married. As a woman, you both can go to work. A lot of times that context is woman comes home and does what? Makes dinner for the family. Man comes home and eat dinner. That's what he does. You know, the mindset of society has it where a woman is meant to serve, be submissive to a man, versus we work together on all things.
mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
We know where
y'all,
that come from.
Oh, this
What you
man.
say?
I said we know where that come from.
Oh
That's a
hell yeah,
topic for another day, though.
yeah,
yeah.
I bet,
yeah.
I bet.
Y'all, so it's getting close to that time. It's 8:06. So if any one of you intelligent, well, Dr. Bird jumped off. So if you have any last words you want to say, Wayne, to, I really want people to recognize what I really want, and this is my final thing. Like, we're not here to man bash. We're not here. We're here to put things on the table, discuss them, so and raise awareness. So, and this topic tonight was for, to help people acknowledge, like, hey, men go through trauma just like women have trauma. We bring trauma to relationships. We hurt those, we 9 times out of 10 we hurt the people that we love when we don't recognize and take accountability for our actions. And I know that's with growth, and some like to say it's with maturity, but it's just practicing self-awareness and knowing what self-awareness, what that means and what that looks like in different situations. So you have any last things you want to shed light on,
Yeah,
Wayne?
I want to appreciate everyone who was on, and also mention that it was this was a healthy expression of what we need to do more of. We didn't have any conflicts, we didn't have any arguments, and this is the way we should commune with each other. So I appreciate the this was a valuable hour spent out of my life, and I just appreciate the content. So thank everybody.
Good. Dr.
Good
Bird,
deal, good deal.
yeah. Dr. Bird, do you have any last words for tonight? This is my number one comment of y'all. And I just, since he's not told, the comments on YouTube for some reason, as much as I pay for StreamYard, it should be working adequately all the time. So it's cutting off for people that usually join on Instagram. If for some reason it's not connecting, it's a technical issue that's going on. And YouTube, I have people texting me saying that their comments are not coming through. I apologize to you guys. Hopefully it'll be fixed by next Wednesday. And I want to thank everyone for taking this hour out of their time joining this conversation. And like Wayne said, I think this was a very productive conversation. I wish the people that were on here that were in the text doing all that rah-rah in the text, I wish they would join tonight. But I guess they're not ready to discuss their trauma, that they're not taking accountability for any little crazy relationships. So,
And it's
Dr.
never
Bird,
bashing. It's never
hold on.
bashing. We're never bashing. We're just
Okay.
speaking about things. It's never bashing.
Yeah, so on that note, good night. Love you guys. See y'all next week.
Love and light. Peace out.
Peace.